All right, let us begin another live. All right, so today's topic, as you can see in the title below me, what plant foods are high in fat? I think I got a typo there. What plant foods are in high fat? You can fix that, maybe, Carby, for diabetes reversal. Now, um, obviously, this is a diabetes reversal channel, so we are going to focus on anything and everything that can reverse diabetes and help you control your blood sugar levels if you're type 1 diabetic. Um, and one of the keys is insulin resistance. That's what the key is. But if you're not diabetic, don't change your channel, I guess, because you're gonna learn how to lose weight with this advice. Come off medications also if you're struggling with other chronic illnesses like hypertension, high cholesterol. Those also cross over into that realm because insulin resistance affects all of those things: weight loss, high blood pressure, high cholesterol. Those are the big ones. So what we teach about low fat eating is not just for diabetics. It's not just for diabetics, right, Carmen?
Yep.
Yep, it's for everybody. It really is beneficial. So I've experienced benefits from it. Obviously, Carmen, you have. Yeah, it's something that we are. It basically forms the center of our program. What I was going to say. Um, in our program, in our coaching program, I would say what the Lose It app, or basically tracking your macros, is probably one of the biggest things that we teach people to do. So right now we're giving people, Carmi, a sneak peek into our program, right? One of the main things you learn as you go through the Diabetes 180 program is how to look at your meals and find out where some of those high fat sources are found, especially when you're eating a vegetarian or vegan diet. So that's something that you want to learn from the beginning, and we're going to teach you how we teach our clients, essentially. So it's going to be cool. So as people are coming in, we always ask, just let us know who you are, where you're watching from, so we can greet you. This live goes across multiple platforms, so you can't always see everyone in the chat, but just know if you're whoever's watching, we're happy you're with us, and whether live or on the playback, right? If you have any questions as we go over this, I do hope that, I'm always hoping for open discussion. So I tend to get a lot of questions about, high fat foods, or plant foods that are high in fat, or fat is a problem, because we live in an era of low carb, high fat, high protein diets being popular. So if there's questions on that, definitely feel free to let us know. I mean, you've experienced both worlds, right, Carmen? Do you find it was harder, or I should say not harder, was it hard transitioning from a keto diet to a plant-based diet?
No, I was excited because
Yeah.
I can eat again. Yeah,
Yeah.
it wasn't hard, and I wasn't like this time around going vegan again. I didn't miss the meat um
Hmm.
as much as the first time we went vegan, but yeah, I was excited to be able to eat fruits again.
Yeah. So you feel
Yep.
like your options grew, right?
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Now, when you switched, this is also important to ask, though. So you switched to plant-based, but then we really didn't know about the fat part, right? The fact that you have to watch your fat intake. And what we recommend on this channel is keeping your fat from 10 to 15%. How was
Hmm.
it transitioning for you? Was that hard? Was that like an element of
With the
whoa,
fat.
okay, yeah. When you had to start watching your fat intake, was that
Yeah,
hard
it
for you?
is hard because on the raw diet we ate a lot of nuts, and I
Mhm.
came to enjoy eating a lot of nuts, a variety of nuts. Don't talk about the avocado. So that is hard because like I see myself not even eating a lot of avocado just because it's like a teaser. But once you increase the amount of food you eat, you can eat more avocado. So I've noticed that if I eat more food, I can
Yep.
start adding peanut butter and some avocado back into my diet. And it's not so hard right now because now that I'm in the gym, I am always hungry. So before
Yeah,
it was harder for me to meet those calories to eat so much, but now I'm always hungry, so I can
yeah,
have more avocado now, and even started eating peanut butter again. So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. And and I'm glad you said that, because one of the mistakes that a lot of people make when they start switching to a plant-based diet is they don't eat enough food, right?
yeah, because on the keto diet, you really look at your calories and all of that, and on the whole food plant-based diet, you don't have to worry about your calories.
Yeah,
So you just worry about your fat. But if your calories are going in the 2000s, you don't have to worry about that
yeah.
because, um,
They're
yeah,
not they're nutrient dense foods. Yep,
yeah.
exactly. So anyone who's watching also, we talked about last I think last episode we talked about whether or not you had to track fat percentage. And the answer, actually, no, that was a video, YouTube video I just did, and the short answer is no. If the first thing to do is to transition to a plant based diet, that's it.
Mhm.
All right, point end point. That's the end goal, to transition from eliminating, if not at least limiting, your intake of animal based foods and increasing your consumption of real food, right? For most people, that's all they need, and they could cross the finish line to get their goals, whether it be diabetes reversal, weight loss, coming off medications. That's enough. I'm curious though, for anyone who's watching, if you've done that, because we might hear people say a lot, well, I've done that. I'm eating healthy, I'm eating plant based, mostly plant based, and my sugars are still high, right? So if that's you, don't be shy. Let us know in the chat. We really want to know if that's something a lot of people are struggling with, because we tend to meet a lot of people in that,
Me
I guess.
included.
Yeah, yeah, right. So the question is, where do you go from there? And
Mhm.
that's where you need to start tracking your intake, right? And it may not be forever. I
Tracking
mean,
makes a big, 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 big difference because
yeah,
we like to go with the idea, oh, it was only a little bit of this comparing to that. And, you try to eyeball things, but we really can't do that without tracking it and,
be honest.
really knowing the amount of fat that is in your food. You cannot see it with your eyes,
That's right.
you know.
Let's get into it. I know, sorry, 8 minutes past when we our starting point. Again, guys, if you have questions, don't be shy. And everyone, right now, those who are viewing and want to talk right now, it's okay. But as always, let us know where you're watching from. If you have questions, and let us support you, especially if you're stuck in this particular method of tracking fat. What I was going to say, something I was going to say that was important before I started. So yeah, well, let me just, it'll probably come to my mind. So let's go ahead. Well, we're going to start with breakfast. Okay. So what we're going to do is start with a common breakfast item, which is oatmeal. All right. And then we're going to go to lunch, a common plant-based um, meal being spaghetti, whole wheat spaghetti. Okay. And we're gonna kind of mess around with certain ingredients to show you how the fat percentage changes. Does that make sense, Carmi?
Hmm.
Right. So okay. So starting with oatmeal, you start a day with oatmeal. Let's say I start with just a cup of old-fashioned oats, rolled oats, some soy milk, blueberries, raisins. Right. We're not going to talk about whether or not you should eat steel cut or oat groats. We're just going to keep it simple. Right. So we're going to keep it simple because you could add more than this. Right. You should be eating more than this. Right. But let's say that's all you have in your oatmeal. Right. The fat in that meal, well, would you guess, Carmi, is that low or high?
Um,
Or medium or right at the mark? What do you think?
Soy milk. I know about the soy milk. I don't use soy milk in my oats, so
Yeah, I
I
think
can't I
so.
don't know how to guess.
Yeah,
But I would think low.
low. Okay,
Still, I don't know.
it's definitely worth asking. So the fat percentage, and this is something, the goal we're trying to encourage people to stay is 15, right, or less. So with this meal being at 16, I'd say that's good enough, right?
That's good.
That's not bad. By end of the day, you're probably going to be under 15 for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Just keep on the same trend. So 16% fat in this meal, and you did say it right. Soy milk is probably the one that caused it. I don't
Mm-hmm.
want people to start eliminating soy milk, right? But definitely watch it, right? It's definitely worth watching. But
Mm-hmm.
with your using soy milk and for your oatmeal, no problem. You're still at the 15% or less total fat intake to reverse insulin resistance, right? And that's what we teach. Next thing you do, okay, let's play around with it now and add nuts. Just an ounce of nuts, which is, if I'm correct me if I'm wrong, Kami, probably is like the palm of your hand, right? Almonds.
Now you probably can count them. Maybe eight.
Yeah. But just a small amount of nuts. What's that going to do to
Yes.
the fat percentage? What do you think that's going to do to the fat percentage?
Hey, that thing gone through the roof.
So we went from 16%
Yep. I was gonna say 30%.
to 30%.
Yep.
So this is just to get you an idea of how those who say, yeah, I'm eating low fat. I'm eating low fat. Now, again, this is particularly for those who are struggling with insulin resistance and they have to start getting their body to release the stored fat in the muscle, liver cells, internal organs. So you want to get at a low fat percentage of 10 to 15% if you want to start reversing some of that stored fat. And it's very, very hard to do that when you're over 15, in the 20 or 30% range. Most people are eating about 30%. Standard American diet's probably as high as 50. But
More, a lot more.
maybe fat. So yeah, this is it. Nuts is something that you can't eat a lot of. Especially if you're not eating a lot of food, right? And remember, it's a percentage. So the more food you eat, the more nuts you can fit in, right? So you want to make sure that you're eating a lot of low fat, whole food, plant based.
Yeah, nuts is very hard because as you put them in your app, you're gonna start to take them out.
All right, so we move on to lunch, right? Let's say, okay, you gotta only eat maybe 3 or 4 nuts. All right, that's it, all right? To adjust,
One.
you adjust, and you move on to lunch, bring it down. Now, lunch is pretty simple. We're just making whole wheat pasta. We're using pasta sauce with some tomato and basil, and a serving of pinto beans, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, do you think this is a low fat meal, Carmen?
Yeah, I think it's a low fat, although I'm not familiar with the
The sauce.
spaghetti and
Yeah,
so
yeah. So let's say you use the oil-free sauce, okay?
yeah, it
Oil
is.
oil free. Look at this, guy. Look at this, guys. 8.5% fat.
Mm-hmm.
8.5% fat in the total intake of this meal. That's really good, right? And you can see how it would balance out the breakfast, right? So what happens now when we start to cook with oil, right? I want to jump on this early on. So let's say now I'm just adding half a tablespoon of oil to cook in with the sauce or the pasta or whatever, or the beans.
Mm-hmm.
See how the fat percentage jumps.
And that's not counting the oil that we usually put in the pot to boil the pasta. I don't know if everybody does that, but
Yeah. So let's say that's not even including that. So right,
that's not even including that.
but just say a small amount of oil, and this is extra virgin olive oil. People are going to say, well, it's extra virgin olive oil. I don't know who has questions on that. That's the question we always get. Well, is extra virgin olive oil the exception? Oil is oil. Oil is fat. Period. Right. End of story. If you want to eat a low fat, whole food, plant based diet, it's very hard to do that while cooking with oil.
Yeah.
Very hard to do that because even a small amount, just half a tablespoon, and you went from 8% to 20%, more than doubled the fat in the meal in that
Mm-hmm.
little tablespoon, right?
Half a
I'm making
tablespoon.
this up, man. These apps are pretty accurate. Okay, these apps are pretty accurate. All right, so it makes it very hard. All right, so going through, and by the way, this live is not going to be very long. So if you guys have questions, and when we're done, we'll go back and check on the comments. But avocados, you talked about this already. Avocados, half an avocado, and this is just a small avocado. You now add. We took all the oil, and now you're just adding avocado, and let's see where the fat goes from 25%. Now you're at 26% almost fat from 8%, from 8.5. So that's pretty
Half
significant.
an avocado.
Just half an avocado. So I mean, I love avocados, Carmen. We love avocados. That's like one of the things we
Yeah.
go to. So we don't. It's not that you never can eat avocados, and none of this is obviously we're not the food police. We're not trying to be food police.
Mm-mm.
You shouldn't be the food police to yourself either. But with avocado, you gotta use moderation. I kind of experimented, Carmen, with a quarter.
Yes, that's right. A
Yeah,
quart.
a quarter of a small avocado is usually okay.
Yeah.
So let's say you take that same pasta, you add a quarter of avocado. Now you're at 18%. That's pretty
Mm-hmm.
good. That's not bad. That's not so far from the 15 goal.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so and especially with you adding other things, let's say you added broccoli to the meal, other low fat, a fruit,
Mm-hmm.
vegetables, snacked on fruit. That's going to also help bring that percentage down. So you can eat avocado, right? But definitely
Mm-hmm.
not, probably not oil, I would say,
No, no. Yes.
definitely not both. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So hope you guys are learning, man. We're almost done. All right. So what about coconut milk? Do you cook with a lot of coconut milk? Can of coconut milk? I guess you do
I
have some.
do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I do.
And you find you can get away with using that usually, keeping
Yeah,
that.
because when I cook enough for at least 5 days.
Yeah.
So
So
it's a lot of food, and I throw one can of coconut milk in
yep,
there.
yep, yep,
Yeah,
yep.
you can get away with it like that.
Exactly. For those who are tuning in now late, just know we're talking about plant foods that are high in fat. Plant foods that are high in fat, right? That's the topic. So coconut milk, I would say, is an honorable mention. That's what I like to call it. It's an honorable mention, right? It's not something that you really need to be too worried about. That was just I think that was a tablespoon. Yeah, about
Mhm.
just a tablespoon of coconut milk. I got you from 8 to 15. So it's still something you have to be careful not to eat too much of, to use too much of, I should say. But with most recipes, doesn't call for a lot of coconut milk. But sometimes people just throw in the whole can in, right?
I throw the whole can,
Well,
but
that's
I cook a lot though.
a lot. You're making a
I
lot.
cook a lot. Yeah.
But for So remembering this is a percentage game, right? So the more you eat more foods, that's why I encourage eat to your full, eat to you're really satisfied, fully satisfied. You don't want to be starving on this diet. You want to eat more. And that's what's beautiful. You can find yourself eating more. Tofu is another honorable mention. So it's not something that you need to eliminate much, but just be mindful of, right? It's definitely not as bad as oil, the nuts, or the avocado. But I probably could equate it to the coconut milk. You're not gonna worry too much. Tofu. If I put tofu in this meal, Carmen, you think it's gonna be high fat?
4 ounces.
And that's like I think it's like like a slice, like a quarter, maybe a quarter or almost third of a block. Not much.
Yeah, yeah, it's gonna be a little higher.
Yeah, so obviously going to bring it up, right? So those soy products, soy milk, tofu, they are moderately not. I would put them maybe in the yellow zone, right? As far as
Mhm.
green, yellow, and red, and so you can go from 8. You see, you're still pretty close to 15,
Mhm.
but you've gone up a little bit. So I think that I like to say that there are some foods, certain things you should just completely avoid, right? So the first thing
Yeah.
we tell our clients is oil. Start cooking with other things, right? Water's enough. Yeah.
I have no other things. It's just water.
You can do vegetable broth. Some people use vegetable broth.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Or you could just throw in some soy sauce. Steam the pot a little that, something like that. You could experiment with other things other than water though.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, sometimes I do that. But oil is definitely a no-go. The next I would say is nuts. Be careful with nuts. You can't eat much. And then avocados, then probably the one you can include with moderation. But nuts is a superfood. Let me get me wrong. Like, man, but I thought nuts were healthy. Nuts is healthy, but we're focusing on reversing insulin resistance. We got to limit some of those
For the
fats,
time being.
right? And then maybe you can reintroduce it later. But what I was going to say, low fat is not no fat, right? So I know a lot of people are gonna, they leave messages, comments, but you can't survive without fat. How do you live without fat? And I don't know why people always want to live in the extreme. You say low fat and they hear no fat. Like so it's a moderation. right? Everything has fat in it in the plant-based world. Why do you think they get oil from vegetables?
Mm-hmm.
Because vegetables have oil, right? Everything has fat in it, everything. So it does add up. Your omega-3s, if you're worried about omega-3s, we'll definitely do a live topic about that. People know the benefits of omega-3 fatty acids, but you're not going to have a worry with that. If you're really worried, you could just do a tablespoon of flaxseed a day. Okay. Yeah. So I hope yeah, I covered this well. We're gonna give a little freebie as always, and this is really nice because now you can. We've done the work for you, essentially. All you got to do is scan it, and all these recipes are 15% or less fat, right? So you've done the work. These 290 plus recipes are all curated to be low fat for you. So you could scan that, give it to whoever needs it, if it's not yourself. Um, Another thing is, if anyone is struggling, if they're really not able to get their sugars under control, we're here to help. We're here to help. Our consultation links are in the description section of all our videos. So check us out there. Next week, what are we going to talk about, Carmen?
No, you?
Yeah, I have an idea. So
You have an
next
idea?
next week, we're going to talk about the emotional burden of obesity. I think is really something that
Wow.
is worth talking. We always talk about the physical side effects of being overweight or obese, right? The physical burden, but I think we need to
Mm-hmm.
talk about the emotional and mental burden, and more importantly than just talking about what it is, but how to overcome that,
Mm-hmm.
right? In the process of having mental peace and mental health. If you are overweight or struggling with obesity, or and struggling with body image, this is a live you want to watch. We're going to cover
Mm-hmm.
some good stuff, some good studies. There's always going to be science based. All right. Okay. Yes, that's it, guys. Beloved, I pray above all things that you may prosper and be in good health, even as your soul prospers.